Hey DCF, Pastor Brad here. Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend and hope you are having a great start to another week. You probably have figured this out by now, but I record these videos on Fridays so that they're ready to go in your inbox by 5:30, 6 o'clock a.m. Monday morning for those of you who get up and work early Mondays to start your week out with. And so I'm recording this. Usually I record it Friday afternoon before lunch, and it's just been a bit of a hectic and overloaded week. And so I'm finally getting to this video about 3:52, 4 o'clock on Friday, and I'm tired. And so I just thought I'd start out this video talking about the importance of rest. And each week I talk about pursuing God in some sort of active way. And one of the brilliant aspects of the way that God has designed his world is that he designed it with rest built into it, right? We're gonna be getting into Genesis in 2021, as you heard me say during yesterday's sermon. And in the creation account, God created over 6 days and then he rested on the seventh. God himself rested as a part of the creation rhythm, the Sabbath rhythm of having 6 and 1. And I know, in America, because of the prosperity that we've experienced in our lifetime, we work 5 and rest 2. But not all people for all time were so lucky to be able to take 2 days off. And hopefully, even as we are probably doing a lot of manual labor and work around the house, and on that day where we're not getting paid on Saturday, we are taking time during the Sabbath day to rest. I don't know for how many of you that habit has become a part of your spiritual rhythm and life. But I want to challenge you this morning, or whenever you're watching this video, to really consider the wisdom of God behind that part of creation. And it was such an important part of his created rhythm that he included it in the moral law of God. Remember, we talked about the moral law of God in the sermon 2 weeks ago, and the 3 uses of the law. And the 10 commandments continue on for us today as that moral guide. And it wasn't only a part of the creation rhythm, but it was included in the commandment: honor the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, right? Commandment number 4, honor the Sabbath day, keep it holy. And so it's clear that God does not want us to ignore this important part of how he has designed life. And rest is so important. And this is not what I'm spending the whole video talking about, but I just want you to think about pursuing God in rest, to get away from thinking and finding your identity in your career, in your achievements. Yes, work and hard work and success at work is important. It's very important. God made us to work. Work was not a result of the fall. Hard work was the result of the fall, but work was part of Genesis 1 and 2 before the fall happened. And so work is good. But rest is incredibly important so that we are not finding our identity and being wrapped up in that work to the extent that it becomes who we are. And for many of us, we can think of people who they've sacrificed their spouse at the altar of their job. They've sacrificed their kids at the altar of their job, at the altar of money, at the altar of promotion, at the altar of achievement. And they are missing out on what life has to offer them. They're missing out on spiritual fervency because they've prioritized something that is important and necessary work to be that of ultimate importance. For how many people do you think work has become an idol? It's such an easy trap for us to just give ourselves to day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, and then we wake up and we realize we've missed out on some very important things because this thing that was intended to be a good thing turned into a God thing. And so God builds that rhythm right into our week. Every week, remember, you are my child. Before you are an engineer, an accountant, stay-at-home mom or dad, a pastor, a student, before you're any of those things, you are my child, my son, my daughter, adopted by my grace because of the work of my son. So rest this week, find time to get alone with God and just be in his presence. I'm coming to you today on Lord's Day 24, and I've used up half my time already, so I'll try to keep this quick. But Lord's Day 24 follows up last week's Lord's Day that talked about faith alone, apart from any works. And here we're getting at that idea again. Why can't our works bring us back to God? Why can't our works fix the problem that our sin has created in separating us from God? And so here's question 62. Why can't the good we do make us right with God, or at least help make us right with him? And I love the answer. And in summary, the answer to that question could either be, one, because you don't understand the holiness and the glory of God, or two, because you don't understand the depths of your own sin. And this is often, I always say this, in order for us to really get why the gospel is so crucial, so important to life, so important, so valuable, of infinite value and worth, in order for us to get that, we got to see God more clearly and we got to see ourselves more clearly. And if either of those are fogged by anything that distorts the way that we see them, the gospel will be of maybe some importance, but not the value that it should have in our lives. So here's the answer that the Catechism gives to that question. Because the righteousness which can pass God's scrutiny must be entirely perfect and must in every way measure up to the divine law. Even the very best we do in this life is imperfect and stained with sin. So again, it's getting at what I just said, that if we think that our works have the ability in themselves to make us right with God, either one, we don't understand the holiness, the glory of God, which requires perfect righteousness, or two, because we don't realize that everything we do is imperfect and stained with sin. We don't have a clear picture. And so we need God to reveal the glory of himself, and we need him to reveal the truth of our hearts and the truth behind why we do what we do. And so that's why the gospel is grace alone, by faith alone, in Christ alone, period, apart from anything that we have or will do. And then, the Catechism kind of goes to ask the question, if that's the case, if it's not about works, isn't that dangerous? Aren't you just telling people it doesn't matter what you do, so just go ahead, eat, drink, and be merry? Go ahead, just, live it up because it's all about grace. Like Paul's question, I think it's Romans 6, shall we go on sinning so that grace may abound, right? God is more glorified if I sin more because he can just shower more grace on me and he gets more glory. Should I just keep on sinning? And of course, Paul responds by saying, by no means. By no means. Here's how the Catechism says it. Question 64, but doesn't this teaching make people indifferent and wicked, right? And the answer is no. It is impossible for those grafted into Christ by true faith not to produce fruits of gratitude. And in DeYoung's chapter on this Lord's Day, he talks about three answers to the question of, here's the question: why do good deeds and deny yourself if such works can do nothing to merit divine favor anyway? And he says there are three answers to this question: faith, fruit, and gratitude. Okay, so true saving faith is not just intellectual assent, right? But it is a firm trust played out in real life that God's promises are true and his promises do not fail. And so think to the story of Abraham, right? In Genesis 22, I think, when God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. If Abraham said, God, I believe in you, like he could have verbally said that, but how do we know that Abraham trusted the promises of God? He raised that knife, right? True faith demonstrated itself in works. Now, of course, God stopped that knife from being thrust into his son because God knew eventually the sword would be thrust into his own son to pay for our sin. That was the foreshadowing of what Christ would do. And in that case, there was a ram who was the sacrifice to spare Isaac, and we knew that we would need a sacrifice one day to spare us as well, and that's what Jesus did. But in that moment, Abraham's true faith developed, or his salvation proved itself out in true faith. The second thing is that saving faith always produces fruit. Jesus told us this in Matthew, right? A changed heart will bear itself out. It will prove itself out in the works of its life. Grapes don't come from thorn bushes. Grapes come from grapevines, right? Like that. The fruit is consistent with the plant, the tree. And then finally, the third one is gratitude. Grace leads to gratitude. We talked about this the last couple of weeks. We don't do good works for legalism or license, but we do them out of gratitude. The gospel produces within us a desire to live in response to the grace that God has shown us. What a gift it is that his son has given up everything for us. And when we understand the glory of God, we understand the depths of our own sin, we recognize how amazing that gift is that Jesus has given to us, and we desire to live in response to it. And so the gospel doesn't create people who are indifferent and wicked. The gospel produces Christians. It produces disciples, and disciples are those who are continuing to love and mature and show evidence of true faith in the way that we live for and love Christ. So may Christ be to you a treasure this week as you love and pursue him. Have a great week loving and serving the Lord, and we'll see you on Sunday.